Welcome, Sonder fam, to our Sunday evening weekly setup. My name is Bailey Grady, and I will be your facilitator today. For those of you who may be new to weekly setups or maybe new to this type of social, the way that this works is we're going to do a couple of sort of mindful prompts here at the beginning, and then we'll dive into the meat and potatoes of our time here, which is the weekly setup, which I already saw somebody is going to be setting up in March, and then some of us are finishing out in February. Some of you may be deciding to do both and get both ready today so that way mid through the week you're ready to hop over. No matter what you decide to do, that is totally fine. If you're somebody that signed up recently and you're still waiting on your journal, that is okay too. Feel free to just jot down notes as we go through, and then whenever it comes in, you'll be ready to go. I'll be in my February journal tonight because my March journal actually hasn't come in yet. It's supposed to come tomorrow, and I'm super excited to get it. So I'll be in February, but the fabulous Katie is in the chat tonight helping out as my stage manager. She's hopping on all the way from Scotland to say hello. She has the page numbers and stuff for March for those of you that are setting up in there. So if that's you, don't worry, we have got you covered. So feel free to do February, do March, do both, or just take notes and do either. Either way is good with us. Just do whatever works for you. And speaking of doing whatever works for you, that's always what we want you to lean into here in your time at your Sonder socials. So if you're new, you'll notice that, your camera's not on. You don't have to worry about whether or not you're muted. I'll be the only one that is on mic and on camera tonight. So you can feel free to get cozy and your favorite blanket, your jammies, come exactly as you are and just participate or as much or as little as you want. And that includes in the chat. So you do have the ability to talk to each other using our chat. If you'd like to do that, make sure that you set that little blue box where you type to everyone so that way everyone can see what you have to share. One of the best parts about being able to come to these socials while they're live and it is to be able to interact with everyone. There's always like really good encouragement and just like thought sharing and really like camaraderie and like community that happens here in the chat. So if you want to take part in that, amazing. Just make sure you set that little blue box to everyone so everyone can see what you have to say. A lot of the times it'll default to host and panelists. And if it says that, then only myself and Katie will be able to see what you're sharing. And while we love to see what you have to say, we know that everyone would love to see it as well. So also, as we go through, feel free to take screenshots of anything that you see. That does not bother us one bit. We want you to have whatever tools and references you need to get this journal going. So speaking of get going, let's do it. So we are officially wrapping up our time in February, which means that our mind map activity, which is something that we open our weekly socials with, is still going to be on our theme of confidence. So just to give you all a heads up on that. And real quick, let me run through our community guidelines. So while you're here with us, please be kind and courteous to yourself and others. No promotions or spam. Respect everyone's privacy. No hate speech or bullying, of course. Try to limit repetitive product and accessory questions. And then don't be surprised if myself or Katie redirect some of your questions over to the customer care team at hello@silkandsonder.com. We don't have access to all of the things that they have access to. So depending on what your question is, we may refer you to them so that they can get you the answers that you need. And then Sonder Socials are a tool to help elevate your emotional health through the power of community, but you're responsible for your own emotions, well-being, and decisions. So like I've already said, this is participate at your own comfort, whatever that means for you. As we get into these mindfulness prompts, if anything starts to feel like crunchy inside and it's like, I don't really want to go there today, that's okay. Just chill out, listen to the music, feel free to doodle or color or pick out all your favorite pens and stickers and things to get set up with. And then after a few minutes, we'll move on to something else. So we are going to start with our confidence mind map. And then we'll move into our rosebud thorn, which is a mindfulness exercise that allows us to kind of say goodbye to last week before we move into the next week. And then we'll do that weekly setup. So again, still on this theme of confidence currently. For those of you that are in March, you're going to have our new theme that you'll be looking at, but you can still participate in this. The activities that we do at the beginning of the weeklies are always just on a blank page or space in your journal. So you can use a blank page or space to do this with us today or jot down in a different journal if you want to keep that March journal with that new theme. But for now, we are just still focusing in on confidence. And a week or so ago, my husband went to like a local, it was like we have something here called like School of Rock, which is like a music school, but they teach kids, like guitar, drums, keyboards, vocals. And they don't do like a traditional recital. They do like a group like concert when they do their recitals. And we had a friend whose child was in that. So my husband went to the concert and he said that there was this tiny little girl. She looked like she was probably like 7 years old. She like came up on the stage and she had this shirt that said, "Relax, the drummer is here." And he said, sure enough, she got up behind that drum set and she absolutely killed it. He was like, she was so small when she was like kicking that bass drum. She was like having to like step to hit the pedal, but she like nailed it. And I just thought that that was like such a fun story of confidence that like she came in there with the outfit, telling everyone, hey, the drummer is here. I'm going to own this. I'm going to own the room. And I just love that. I think at some point, all of us, especially as kids, probably did feel that confident about something before social norms and other things in society taught us to feel differently. And so it's been really nice to focus in on that theme and think about how to get back to that like spirit. And I've shared before that this theme is going to be really all about what confidence means to you and what it looks like to get back to that like spirit of that like super confident little girl, right? And for me, that means like radical and consistent self-love. For you, it might mean something else that you need to think about or focus on to build confidence. And something that I have kind of figured out this month as we've been focusing in on this theme is part of that radical and consistent self-love for me is also self-advocacy. It's really like taking that moment to like listen to my gut and speak up, right? And say like, you know what? Actually, this restaurant isn't going to work for me. Like, it's really dark in here. There's live music, which is cool, but it's really loud and it's 8:30 and like I don't have the energy for this, right? Like I'm overstimulated. We need to go across the street at like the quieter little restaurant. Like nothing against this place. Super cool. If we came at 5 o'clock instead of 8, I probably would have been good to go. But now I'm tired. I can't like self-regulate. And so we just need to go across the street, right? And like feeling brave enough to say, hey, this isn't going to work for me. This is actually what I need. Like in this moment, I need something with like a little less stimulus. I need something that like works more for me. And this could be with friends, it could be with family, it can be at work, it can be in the home, right? Like there's so many ways that we can kind of like advocate for ourselves and like speak up. And I think that this actually flows really well into our mind map question this week. And you guys will see what I mean as we move in there, which we're going to do now. So this will be on a blank space or page in your journal, or if you've already started your mind map, it would probably be on that same page where you've been doing this all month. But we're just going to take some time to reflect for one last time at the weekly setup on this theme of confidence and how it shows up in the areas of our lives. And we are going to look at confidence in your competence. So confidence and competence are two different things, but they're kind of like cyclical and related. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. But the prompt here is to think about your abilities, knowledge, resources, and skills, and what is something you want to do, but have been afraid to start. How can you take action? What is the connection between confidence and competence? So I'll read you what I put for mine, and then I'm going to show you like a little graphic about that kind of cyclical relationship that I talked about. So for me, what I said is traveling to new places is something I want to do and that I am doing this year. We already like have things booked. I have a work trip coming up. They're both to new places, so like it's happening. But it always makes me nervous because it's new and my anxiety can go a little crazy with all the like what ifs. But I always enjoy it when I actually get there. And I've proven time and time again that I can handle any kind of like unforeseen obstacles along the way. But being prepared with knowledge and resources helps me feel more confident in like taking that jump and like actually like booking the trip, right? And then by going on the trip, I kind of am able to show myself like, oh, yeah, this worked out. Like, look, we got to have these new experiences and that was so cool. And like, maybe there was some hiccups and maybe we learned some things. Like I personally, like on a recent trip learned that like, I don't have a lot of energy on travel day anymore. So I can't be like going at a super late dinner, right? I need to go a little bit earlier. So even if things don't go 100% as planned, I kind of learn how to do it better the next time and what I need to get the most out of that experience and be successful. And so that kind of feeds into this relationship of confidence and competence, right? So like you kind of have to have a little bit of that initial like spark and like I would say like a little courage and like bravery to just like try the thing, whatever it is, right? To like take the leap, take the jump, and know that whatever it is, it may not go 100% the way that you want it to or the way that you thought it might, right? But that's okay. Like I don't even want to say failure. I would say like setbacks, right? Because I think the only way you like completely fail at something is if you give up altogether and it's still something you want. Um, because sometimes giving up on things is a win if you figure out, hey, this doesn't work for me. Like, so sometimes giving up is a win. But if it's still something you want and you just give up because you're like, oh, it's too hard or it didn't go the way I wanted to, and I'm just not gonna do it ever again, then that's a little bit more of failure. But if it's like a setback where you're like, oh, this didn't go exactly how I thought. And in fact, it was like kind of rough or it was kind of terrible, but I did learn a lot, right? Then that's just part of it. That's part of building that competence of like, okay, so if I try this again, really what I need to do is do this or shift here, or maybe I need to not do it by myself, right? Like maybe I need help. Like maybe I need to ask for help. Maybe I need to ask somebody to do this with me. Maybe I need more training. Maybe I need to lean on some experts and do some more learning and things like that. So then you're like, okay, I feel better. I feel more prepared. I'm going to try this again. I'm going to go for it. And then it goes a little bit better. Even if it's not perfect, it goes a little bit better. And then you're like, yeah, okay, that feels better. So I can do this. And these tweaks helped. And now I know what else I need to tweak. And so this competence is feeding the confidence. And then the confidence creates more competence. And so we have this sort of like cyclical relationship here. So all that to say, I'll go through all of these slides while you work on this prompt, and the prompt is on each one of these screens, so that way you won't lose sight of it as you're working. And feel free to take some time to share with us in the chat what you're writing, what you're putting down, and I'll put on some music, and then we'll get into our next prompt. Hey, so thank you all so much for taking a few moments to think about this. If you're still thinking, if you're still pondering, that is totally fine. Our time here has a time limit, but your time with your journal has no time limit. So feel free to come back to that or jot down a few things as we continue to move through. We are now going to hop into our rose bud thorn exercise. So kind of giving ourselves some time to reflect on last week before we move into the next one. And if you are in the February journal, this week's is going to be on page 50, but this pops up on every week in the journal. If you're in March, there probably isn't a dedicated spot for this just yet, because a lot of the times it'll just start fresh with the new week in March. Katie can correct me if I'm wrong. So if you're starting in March, you can just do this on a scratch notes page or a blank page or just a separate sheet of paper, whatever works for you. But we're just going to think about the last 7 days and kind of reflect on all the things that happened. Feel free to kind of go back through your calendar if you need like a little bit of a refresher or like the photos in your phone. Because I know I have some weeks where I can't even fully remember what happened yesterday, let alone all the way back to Monday. But we're going to be thinking about what our rose, bud, and thorn for the week is. So a thorn is a challenge you experience or an area that might be requiring more support or attention. A bud is something coming up that you may be looking forward to or needing to prepare for. It could also be new ideas or interests. And then a rose is going to be a highlight, a success, a small win, or something positive that happened or made you smile. This could be something really big or it could be something really small. I always like to do these in reverse. So my thorn for last week is that I had to make some really tough decisions at work. It was definitely one of those weeks where it was not super fun to be in leadership, but it's okay. We got through it, and next week is a fresh start. And then my bud is that I have a 2-week work trip that's coming up in just a few weeks. I have never traveled away from home for that long of a period of time before. I didn't even take off that long for my honeymoon. So it's going to be interesting to live in a hotel for 2 weeks, but I'm trying to get more and more excited about it. That's like my strategy for feeling more confident. And I'm trying to be more prepared. So the amount of Amazon boxes that have come to my house this week with a whole new wardrobe is a little insane. But that's okay. That's what we have to do because corporate has a different dress code. And then my rose is that I had a lot of fun celebrating birthdays of multiple friends this past weekend and had a ton of fun just really getting to hang out and be with my people. So I'll give you a few moments to think about your rosebud thorn. And if you'd like to share in the chat, we would love to see them. Okay. Thank you for taking a few moments to think about last week before we move into next week. I saw some really like great roses and like challenges that people have overcome. Like I've seen like a few people that are doing that, like self-advocating. That's awesome. And then I also saw some really tough thorns, lots of anxiety, some medical stuff, and just know that like we're there with you. Everyone knows exactly how it feels to feel that anxiousness, even if it's not the exact same situation. And so we're all sending all of our virtual love and hugs to you. We are now going to move into that main event, that weekly setup. So if you are in February, we're going to be on pages 52 and 53. And then I think Katie hopefully has the March pages for me. I think she has them. If she does, she'll throw them in the chat. But if not, that's okay. If you're in March, feel free to set up in March. Nothing wrong with it. It's just my March hasn't come yet. So I don't have those pages right in front of me. It's supposed to be here tomorrow. But if you're in March, that is totally fine. No worries. So we're going to start with the This Week I Want to Feel. So this will be in the top right page of your weekly setup. Up there it is. So page 26 if you're in March and 52 if you're in February. So we're going to start with how we want to feel. So just thinking about the week ahead, what's coming up, how do you want to feel either this time next week or as you move through your week, like what kind of feeling may help you, right? So this is just a little word cloud, but then we have some examples and things here. I really want to embrace confidence and curiosity. Embrace is my theme is my word for 2024. So I changed my how I want to feel this month to I want to embrace to kind of bring in that word. And so I'm wanting to embrace confidence and curiosity. So think about how you want to feel, and I'll throw on a quick song for you, and then we'll move into our next section. All right. Hopefully you thought of how you want to feel, either moving through the week, what kind of overall feeling you want to kind of like manifest for yourself, or how you want to feel this time this week. If you're not quite sure yet, you haven't like quite pinned it out, that's okay. It might come to you as we're moving into our other sections. So the next part that we're going to do here is our weekly major 3 goals and then our weekly to-dos. So they're both in like the center section of this page in your journal. And I kind of go over different examples and things for this part together because you'll see in the examples, sometimes people sort of tie these 2 parts of the journal together to make it more cohesive. So I like to go over these 2 sections at the same time so you can decide if you want to do them together or do them separate. So I'll have quite a few examples to go through here, and then I'll put on a good chunk of music for you to decide how you want to do these. So we're going to start with some examples that kind of show how you might mirror the 2 together. So over on the left-hand side, you can see 2 examples of how people kind of set their weekly to-dos and their weekly major 3 goals to kind of go together. So the person in the top left kind of did color coding that matches. And then I really like the little bingo that goes with like the mind, body, soul. Super cute, like categories there. So you can see they've sort of like set those like areas of focus, and then they've come up with to-dos that are gonna like support those areas of focus there. But you could also tie in things to other parts of the journal too. Like in the center, somebody decided to kind of tie their weekly 3 goals to how they want to feel. They wanted to make sure those things were going to support that feeling of how they want to feel as they move through the week. And then in the bottom center, that's another one where there was sort of like 3 areas of focus with habit, marketing, and chores. And then they kind of color coded the to-dos with like different boxes to go with that. And then I think it was like early in the month. One of our Sonder fam, Julie, shared in the chat at a social that she was trying something different this month. And each week she was using 3 of her monthly intentions to focus on and then setting goals tied to those. So that was really like creative and cool. So I wanted to share that too. So mine is over on the right. I don't tie anything together currently, but I do use the little calendar section when I'm like planning out my to-dos. I just kind of look at what I actually have committed for the week. And then I have kind of a running little section for reminders of things that like if I don't write it down and I don't see it every week, I'm going to lose sight of it. So I just move those over week to week until I get them done. And then my major 3 goals are just actually like to be's. So this week I want to be brave, be kind, and be present. So you can always switch that up as well into something different like that. So here are some more examples of weekly to-dos. If you have a super busy week, you may want to try the Eisenhower matrix over here on the left-hand side to kind of whittle down that list if you can and see what you really want to do and get done this week. Is there something that's like urgent? Or is it not urgent? Is it important? Is it not important? Do you have to be the one to do the thing? Do you have somebody else you can delegate to, or can you delegate it to a different week, for example? So maybe you are the person you're delegating to. It's just not Bailey this week. Bailey in 2 weeks is going to complete that task, right? If you're like me and you struggle with executive function a little bit, the Pomodoro method can be real helpful for like getting started. You sort of agree to set out, like you agree with yourself to set out a task and you agree to work on it for 25 minutes. So just 25 minutes, no more, no less. And then you set a timer. And then at the end of that 25 minutes, you kind of take note of your progress. And then you check in with yourself and you're like, okay, can I work on this for another 25 minutes? Like now that I'm up and moving, do I have the energy? Or like, no, this is not working today. I'm not feeling it. I just want to take a break. And either way, you do whatever feels right to you. You either stop or you keep going, because that kind of builds trust in yourself the next time you go to do it, of like, I only have to do it for 25 minutes. And then after that, if I feel like I can keep going, I will. But if I don't, I'll get to stop, and that's okay. You can also do a to-do list here instead of a to-do list. So instead of all the things that you need to do, it's writing down the things as you do them. So ta-da, I did it. And then at the end of the week, you kind of see all the things that you got done, and that just like feels different, right? You can also try a need, want, hope list of like things you need to do, things you want to do, things you would hope to do, but like maybe they won't get done this week in particular. Or you can do need, want, hope in the sense of like things that you need for yourself, things that you want for yourself, and things that you're hoping for yourself as you move through the week. There are some more examples here of the weekly to-dos. So you can change it into a bingo and make it fun. You can always do doodles, you can do stickers, different quadrants. Again, you can sort of marry this over to those weekly 3 and like support those for yourself. You can also dive into different areas of focus. So like self, family, home. Again, if you've got like a really big to-do list, sometimes having it into like, okay, these are my home to-dos and these are my me to-dos, right? And things like that can just help to break it up a little bit. You can also do different routines here. And again, we always love stickers and fun doodles. So now these are some weekly 3 examples. So again, you could try different areas of focus. I think the alliteration of frog, fun, and fierce is super fun. So I like that one a lot. I also like the left brain, right brain, no brain. And then I like the example from Sonder Van, like in the center top there, where they've actually listed out their 3 goals and then they've listed out why, right? So for meditate often, they have Why? It helps with physical anxiety and I sleep better. A lot of the times when we set goals, if we list our why, like why we set that as a goal for ourselves, it kind of reminds us of why we set that intention and it helps us to stay more committed to it. And then, of course, you can pick just like overall goals, commitments, and accountability for the week if you're trying to tackle like some specific things. And you can try a to stop or a to don't list as well. You can also try something totally different in these areas. Like you could change it into like a movies and TV shows or like a self-care jar of like just ways that you might be able to kind of take care of yourself throughout the week this week that you can reference really quick. You can use a favorite quote or mantra, whatever works for you. So I will put on some music and don't worry, I'll cycle through all of these examples while you work on yours. So if you had a favorite slide and it went away, don't worry, it's going to come back. But I'll put on some music while you work on this section in your own journal. Okay, so with those areas tackled, we are now going to move into our next section at the bottom of the page here. So the habits and activities section. Um, I really like the example here on this page in the bottom middle here with the cute little like mushroom, because they decided to focus on the activity portion of this rather than the habit portion of this. So they did a relaxing activity, active activity, mental activity, fun play activity, and creative activity. I think a lot of the times when I've done this section in the past, I've really focused on like the habit part of it. And I thought that was really fun that they've leaned into the activity portion of this section. And if you are newer, you'll probably notice that there is also a monthly habit tracker at the front of your journal, right? And so you might be like, oh my gosh, how many habits am I supposed to have? And the truth is you can have as many or as few habits as you want or you need or whatever works for you. Typically with the monthly section, we recommend trying to track habits that like you want to try to achieve each and every day, right? Because it is like a monthly wheel there versus your weekly habits may be something you just want to focus on this week. Or maybe you have a habit in your overall monthly that's going really well. And so maybe you want to like stretch it a little bit this week. So I like to use the example of, if you had a goal of walking 3,000 steps a day in your monthly habit, and that's going really well, maybe 3 times this week, you want to try 5,000 steps a day to see if that is achievable and if that needs to be like the new goal, right? Next month, maybe. Likewise, if there's something you're struggling on, like maybe you wanted to eat 2 vegetables a day or something, and that's not going very well. Maybe you want to try just like 1 vegetable a day this week and see if that's easier, see if that's more achievable, right? It can kind of just give us an area to focus in and check in with ourselves of like, hey, is this habit actually working the way that I intended it to? Is this still important to me? If it's not going well, why? What can I tweak? And sometimes the truth is it's like, hey, this isn't the right time to focus on this thing right now. And that's why it's not going well for you. And that's okay too. But for me, I changed this area to a sleep routine. At the beginning of the year this year, I decided that I wanted to kind of try to focus on getting my sleep back in order and trying to develop a routine. So I've been using the space here the last couple of months for that. And it's worked really well for me, even if I don't track it every day, to have that like visual reminder of what I'm supposed to do each night. And it's really helped a lot, a whole lot. So I'm continuing to do that. But you can decide to set as many or as few goals or intentions here as you like. You can try to set a goal of how many times you want to do that thing or just track it as it happens. You can also track how much of something you do, and maybe like you're trying to stop doing something, right? Like maybe you want to track like no alcohol for the week or no biting your nails, that sort of thing. And then you can also just change up this space completely. If you're like, you know what, I just want to focus on my monthly stuff. I don't want to have another space to look at throughout the week. The monthly works well for me. Just put some fun stickers here or use it as a space to kind of jot down some thoughts, like do like a little midweek check-in with yourself here. You can totally repurpose it to whatever works for you. And if you need some inspiration of things you might want to put in this section, we have some fun little graphics there to look at too. So I'll put on some music for you and then we'll get into our next section. All right. We are now going to flip over to our next page. So page 53 in February, I believe 27 in March. And we are going to start with the section that is titled Meal Plan. Now, this gets repurposed a lot, and it's not because meal plan is like a bad category. So like if you use it as a meal plan, that's awesome. It's great that you already have that space carved out in the journal. The only reason it gets repurposed so much is because it does take up a lot of space in the journal, right? Like it takes up a lot of real estate. And so there are some people that do track sort of meal planning, or they track kind of like what they're eating, but they decide to do it in a different spot in the weekly setup or in a different page in the journal, and then they use this for something else. And then likewise, some people do use this as their meal plan. So whatever works for you. There are a lot of ways that you can repurpose this up there on the screen. There's like a whole list of things there on the left-hand side, but you can try doing like an acronym here as like a daily check-in. The GLAD acronym is really popular with folks, so it stands for gratitude, learning, accomplishment, and delight. But I also like the person that is doing like an overall check-in for the week. So this week I learned, created, loved, remembered, and accomplished. As always, love stickers, love when those are incorporated. And I really like the mindful moments here that somebody decided to do. For me, I put my work meetings here. I moved into a different position like at the end of July last year, and it came with a lot more meetings. And so like writing them out in my journal has really helped me to keep like my life organized and together. So I'm continuing to do that because I did it one week and it saved my bacon, and last week it happened again. So until it no longer saves my bacon, it's going to keep going in that spot for me so that I can kind of stay organized. And then Kimberly Ailes shared in a few socials ago that they're using the meal plan section as a daily check-in for their feeling of the week. So an example would be if you wanted to feel strong this week, your check-in might be, how did I show strength today? So I will put on some music for you to think about how you want to use this section for you, and then we'll hop into the next ones. All right, we are hopping on over to our mind body health plan and shopping list section. So, for the mind body health plan, you can use this as a space to carve out ways to take care of your mind body health. So, things that are just for you this week. So, that can be whatever you want it to be, it can look like whatever you want it to look like, whatever it is that you need. I like to do a little like self care bingo here. It works really well for me. I started doing it months ago and I had more success getting things done in this section than ever before. So, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? So, so I'm gonna keep doing that for me. But you could focus on a lot of different things here, like the 7 types of rest, and this could be another spot for you to do weekly check-in. You can also just set overall intentions, right? Like a couple weeks ago, I was like, I just need to tidy and sleep, and so that's what I put there. But you could also change this up into whatever is going to sort of fill up your cup, right? So, like, I love the plant care because I think like taking care of plants or like animals or kids or whatever, sometimes that like helps take things off of our plate. Sometimes it's therapeutic. If you're like a gardener and you like to garden and get out into the dirt and stuff, right? That's like self care for you. So, whatever that looks like for you, feel free to fill this space in with that. I also like the I feel and I need tea chart. And when in doubt, a fun sticker or quote is always good as well. And then the shopping list is just below that. So this is another spot that gets repurposed quite a bit just because a lot of people use other things for their shopping list, apps and different things like that. And again, it takes up a little chunk of space in your journal each week. So you feel free to do whatever makes the most sense for you here. I use it as an actual shopping list between my anxiety and like my ADHD. I tend to get into situations where I either buy things immediately because I'm afraid that I'll forget, or I don't, and then I actually do forget to get them. So having a place that I can consistently write down things that I need, whether it's something for the grocery order next week, or it's something that like over the next couple months I probably should buy, really, really helps me. So I do use this as a shopping list. But I love the person that uses it for washi scraps. I think that's like a fun little art project every week. So I'll put on some music for you all to decide how you want to do these sections. And then if you can believe it, it'll be time for us to close out our time together. All right, if you can believe it, that's going to close out our time together. We do have one final section of the weekly setup, which is the I am loving. I personally am loving the return of sun and light. So, not just sunlight, but just general sun and also more light. I'm very much looking forward to the days getting longer for sure. So as we close out our time together, if you would like to share what you are loving in the chat, we would love to see that. And then I have a few examples here that I'll cycle through at the end as we are closing out of what I call the weekly spread pages, which are the pages that are just beyond the ones that we did in our setup. So just some different ways that people have decided to carve out those sections, different ideas and things like that. But it was our sincere pleasure to be here with you this evening and get you ready for the week ahead. We hope that you all feel very centered and ready to take everything on that is coming your way. We are still doing the Refer a Friend program. So if you refer someone to Silk and Sonder, they get $10 off, you get $10 off, and then you can come to socials together. And then if you are not already an annual subscriber and you're interested in upgrading, it can save you some monies. So maybe just something to take a look at and look into if that works for you. And then if you would, please fill out the new social survey just about your time here, what you liked, what you didn't, anything you want us to change. I promise all the feedback gets looked at. And then Katie is popping into the chat all of these links as well as the YouTube link, and you're going to want to save that link for sure. It's not always searchable, so you want to hold on to that, but this social, along with all of our others, does get recorded, and it will be up there for replay within a few days. So if you ever miss one, can't make it, need to go back and see something, you can do that there. And then finally, I will pop my playlist in the chat here that we listened to tonight. Feel free to go take a look at it, steal songs from it, make your own playlist, whatever floats your boat. Again, it was our absolute pleasure being here with you tonight, and I'll cycle through those final slides as we close out our time. But until next time, be good to each other, and we'll see you in Sonder Club.